Hey pilots, DrainMan here, and today I have got a very special video. In today's video we are going to be checking out another broken ESC. I had this sent to me and he said it's not working, he doesn't know why, and it actually looks really good. I gave it a visual inspect and everything looks absolutely fine with it. So if you're struggling with a bad ESC but yet it looks perfectly fine, then this is going to be the right video for you. Let's go! Alright, so what we've got here is we've got a KISS 4-in-1 25 amp ESC. Well, a lot of guys are running this now on the new Apex frame. I mean, it's not new, but it's new enough that guys are still doing it. This is listed and rated as a 2 to 5S ESC. And what guys are doing is they're running it on 6S and they're blowing them up, man. And then there's other guys that are riding them hard, like me, and we're having no issues at all. So the very first thing you want to do when you're testing an ESC, or actually when you're testing any circuit, is you want to find out, is there a short? So we're going to find out if there's a short by using the multimeter. You want to put it in a continuity mode, which is where you'll test for resistance. And what we're going to do is we're going to test and find out, what does this thing have, and is there a short? So here we go. It's very simple. You take your two leads, black and red, and if I touch them together, as you see, that is continuity. So if I touch negative and I touch positive, I do not have a short. I'm going to go ahead and set my power supply on about 11.5 volts, and then I'm going to connect my ground, and then I'm going to connect my positive. Whoa! Can you hear that? Oh my gosh, it got toasty super fast. Okay, something is definitely wrong with this guy. This thing lights right up. I get all my indications as if there's nothing wrong, but my power supply is screaming that there's a short. It gets really warm really fast. Something is definitely wrong with this guy, but I don't know what it is. So we're going to go ahead and we're going to need to do a little bit of testing. And let's work through this together. So what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and start by checking to see if any of these pads are shorted to each other. Now, if you have a motor connected, you cannot do this because you'll get a false reading. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and I am going to touch one of my leads to one of the pads, and then I'm going to test it. Nothing and nothing. Alright, now we're going to repeat the same thing by moving to the next one. Alright, so there's nothing, and then we're going to go to the last one. Alright, so I've gotten nothing. And what I'm doing is I'm not testing from here to here or from here to here. I'm staying within this motor. These three wires right here correspond to one motor. So let's go ahead and do one more together. Nothing, 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 and nothing. So we have another one that's giving us nothing. So let's go ahead and flip it over, and I'm going to hit the other two real quick. I'll stop the video if I get any type of reading. So I've got nothing. I've got nothing shooting any red flags there. The next thing I want to do is I want to go ahead and check my negative and positive pads to my motor pads. Now, if I was an electrical engineer, I would probably test this a much different way. But if you're just a drone pilot who has fun with electronics, this might be a fun way for you to do it. So follow along with me. We're going to go ahead and take one of our leads and we're going to set it up on one of our pads. We'll start with our ground. We'll do our quick test to let us know. Multimeter's working, continuity is working, and let's go. Nothing. 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 Holy cow, is nothing wrong with this ESC? What the crap? Alright, let's try positive, I suppose. Oh! my gosh, this thing is all screwed up. Alright, so we've got something going on here. Something in here is allowing a short. We need to figure out what it is. Now, if you don't know about Mosfets, which are a type of transistor, then this is going to kind of be hard for you. And this is not going to be a video on a lesson about Mosfets. If you're interested in learning more about FETs, let me know and I can make a video on it and we can all learn a little bit more about FETs. Okay, that one. So far this one and this one. So that would be on this motor and this motor. So we've got 1, 2, 3 of them that are acting up. So what we need to do now is we need to actually test the FET. And if you don't know how to test the FET, we're going to learn how to do that right now. And that requires knowing where your gate is, where your drain is, and where your source is. And if you don't know enough about it, you don't know anything about how these work or what's going on there, just know that the source and drain work together and the gate is what opens and closes and allows the electricity through. And you cannot have electricity getting through if it's not telling it to open. So if you have continuity when you shouldn't, then that means that that FET is no good. So what we'll do to test that is we can actually pull the numbers off of here and pull up and figure out what type of FET that this is, and that will tell us a little more and tell us how to troubleshoot it. Alright, so I went ahead and did a little bit of research. I'm pulling up that this is a FD-MD 8530 and it's coming up as a dual N-channel power trench FET. So let's go ahead and test it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you how to test one real quick. And as you'll notice on every FET, there is 4 legs on each side. Normally, you'll have 3 of one, 4 of the other, and 1 gate. What we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and test them by finding out where they connect. So these two should touch, which is the second one from the top and the second one from the top. Okay? Second one from the top and the second one from the top. Alright, so those are touching, and they're touching on all of them, because if these two are touching, well, then of course all of them are touching. So what we want to do is we want to go ahead and start by touching one leg and then jumping to the next. So let's go ahead and do that now. So I'm going to touch here, and then let's feel around. Okay, so this is definitely a bad FET. Let's go ahead and test another one. Alright, much better. So that is a good FET. Alright, let's go ahead and check the next one. Well, actually, we don't need to, because that's our bad FET. Good, good. So those are all good. We don't need to check those. Where we're having an issue now is over here. So that one's bad. And that one's bad. So let's prove that to be true by testing it with our leads. So let's find which one the culprit is. Okay. So that's not it. Uh-oh. Uh-oh. Pilots, I think your boy found it. So there's our next bad one. And this one should be fine. Let's go ahead and check it just to be sure. Alright, so there's absolutely nothing wrong with this FET. Alright, pilots, so we are able to find that there are 3 bad MOSFETs on this ESC. So the big question now is it worth putting 3 of them into it? Well, if you have extras laying around, I mean, absolutely, this is a $115 ESC. Come on. It's an easy freaking question. But if you don't have any extras laying around, are you really going to spend the money and wait for the shipping and try to get these? I believe you have to order them in bulk too. I have a full FPV troubleshooting series, and that's what this is. And I'm not perfect and I'm not an expert, but we can learn together. So one important thing is when you're working with this stuff, you are going to have smoke coming off of your board. It is the burning flux and solder and all of those impurities. You do not want to be breathing that stuff. So make sure you have some type of ventilation or some type of air purifier. I have this guy right here. This is just an old PC fan from my PC build that I did, and this thing is great. I've got it wired up to my power supply. If you don't have a power supply, you need to go ahead and build one. I've got a full video on that. I will link that down in the video description, but you've got to have one of these. And right now I'm only running it on 8 volts. It's doing a little bit of suction, a little bit of blowing, but if I crank it, now I'm pumping a little bit of voltage through it. And you can hear that guy really sucking well. Before we go ahead and remove these, we need to find our donor who's going to donate good FETs to us. So let's go ahead and do that now. Alright, so I've got another KISS 4-in-1 right here. You can see a FET missing right there. At some point I must have either removed it or it blew up or whatever the case was. So what I want to do is I want to go ahead and just test a couple of these. We're going to need 3 of them, so let's see if they're any good. Alright, so I've tested them. We have 3 good FETs right here, 1, 2, and 3. We're going to pull these 3 off and then we will slap them on this board right here. And what I did is I used the tip of my multimeter probe rod right here and I scratched in, as you can see, 1, 2, 3. It is very easy to get confused on which ones were bad. So if you mark them, it prevents that from happening. If you have a pencil or a crayon or a Sharpie, it will give you the same effect. Alright, this is my trusty old vise. I absolutely love this thing. If you are interested in getting this exact one, I will link it for you down in the video description. My favorite thing about this one is that it will actually hold 2 ESCs at the same time. Alright pilots, so what I'm going to do to prevent me from heating this up, 3 separate times to remove 3 separate components is I'm going to lube the whole thing up. I'm going to heat it up 1 time and I'm going to remove all 3. Let's go ahead and remove them now. Alright, so I won't go to just smacking it with heat right away. What I'll do is I'll warm the entire board up evenly, just a little bit to kind of prevent any type of shock or too much heat at one time. And I'll just warm this guy up, spreading my heat evenly. And just keep my gun moving. I don't want to be locked down in any one spot too long. Okay. 1 down, 2 to go. Alright, 2 down, 1 to go. Alright. So there we go. We've got our 3 bad FETs off. Alright, so I'm going to go ahead and let that one cool down, and in the meantime we'll go ahead and remove our good FETs, which we have tested as 1, 2, and 3. These we need to be very careful. Now while removing those other ones, had something have happened, it would have been no big deal because they're trash as it is. We know they're bad. We've tested them. Alright, so let's go ahead and remove these 3 good FETs. Now let's warm her up. Alright, 1, 2, and 3 are out. Alright, so now what we'll do is we will turn this back around and we will begin to work on this board again. So the first thing we want to do is we want to go ahead and clean these up, and let's see what's going on with them. I'm not going to clean the board up itself too much, and that's just because I'm going to destroy it again. So my main goal is just to clean up right where we're going to work. Alright, another thing too, you want to be careful with your connector. You can see a little bit of brown on my connector. I heated it up a little bit. You got to be careful with that. And the way to solve that, well, there's two ways to solve that. One is capped on tape, or two is copper tape. You can use any one of the two and use them and tape this guy off and protect it from the heat. Now we need to be very, very gentle because we are working right on the board. Alright, so what I'll do now is I'll cut a fresh piece of solder wick. This stuff here is 2 millimeters, but you can use any size you want. I wouldn't go too thick if it was me, but you can use 1.5, 2, 2.5, 3, whatever tinkles your pinkle. Alright, there you go. That one is fresh and clean. I hope that you guys are able to see all that. Alright, now when you get a little bit too much on there, I swoop in with a little bit of cutters and I cut the excess off. That way I have a fresh clean start again. The one bad thing about it is it does leave behind a big sticky mess, so you do have to clean the board after. But once you do that, watch this. Look at that. That's cleaner than it's ever been. It's probably cleaner than the day it came off the production line. Alright pilots, there's two ways to go about this now that it's clean. Option one is we can use a little bit of solder paste, which is a solder infused flux. You would put that all over the pads, and then when you heat it up it would melt and just become solder. Or option two is we can just use a little bit of solder and get some fresh solder on here, so when we lay our new components down they have somewhere to connect to. I'm going to go ahead and use this route. But seeing that we're doing a teaching moment, if you don't know what solder paste is, this is what it looks like. And believe it or not, if you heat this stuff up, it actually becomes solder. Now it's very important that we don't put too much solder. That's why you see me adding just a very little amount. Heating it up so much is going to cause the flux to leave, but that's okay because we're going to add fresh flux with our syringe. So I'm going to go ahead and get a tiny bit of flux on it right now, up under it. Boom, boom, and boom. Alright, and then what I'll do is I'll grab my components and then I'll lay them in the correct orientation. Uh-oh, that's definitely not the correct orientation. So that's one in the correct orientation. Two. And this one needs to be spun around. And 3. Now we'll hit it with some fluxy flux. You know me, I like a lot of flux. And let's begin. Now don't be trying to become no hero and do all 3 of them at one time. Make sure you focus on one first and then worry about the other ones. This is definitely not a race. You're not trying to beat nobody. You're just trying to put the components on, and you're trying to put them on correctly. So do the best you can, and if you fail, dust yourself off and try again.
Dust yourself off and try again.
Hey, knock it off. All right. Alright, so all 3 FETs are on and they're looking good. So I had a little bit of extra solder squirt out. That's no big deal. I'll soak that up after the fact. And then there's a ton of flux on here, so I'm going to clean that up as well. And I don't want to make the video too long and too boring, so I can go ahead and do that on my own. A lot of times you can use your soldering iron and you can soak up the solder. There it is. Boom. It's hard to see that, but if you were here, you'd be like, oh, sick move. Alright, what I'll do now is I'll take my same PC fan and I'll turn it in a way that it's blowing. Let me see if I can demonstrate. That's the one thing about the fans, they always tend to get me. Alright, see what I'm doing here? I've got one fan right here, and I've got one fan right here, and I've got them faced, blowing. It's not ice cold air, it's just cool air blowing on it, cooling it down. Alright, all the joints are looking really good. I've scanned over all the FETs just to be sure that none of my solder rolled over and messed with any of the other ones. Because you got to keep in mind, we heated up the entire board. So we just want to scan over, make sure everything looks okay. And I did, other than a little bit of cotton hairs. We're looking really good, guys. Alright, pilots, this video is getting quite long, but let's dive right in. So surgery is over. Let's find out how everything went. I have the multimeter in continuity mode, and let's try it out. Alright, so that's a really good sign. Before, we knew that if we touched positive and some of the motors that we had continuity, and we no longer do. So we went ahead and made our repair. I know we changed this one. I think we changed this one and this one, or this one and this one. Crap, I don't even remember. But let's go ahead and test them and see how they're doing. Alright, so that one was successful. We'll flip it around and check this one. Okay, let's keep going. Just because I'm not sure which one I did. Alright, that one's good. I'm getting excited. Oh yeah. Oh. Ah. Alright, the last thing to do is to supply this guy with some voltage. And let's find out, did we complete our mission? So before you saw how it sounded, I'll replay that for you now. Whoa! Yes, sir. And now, let's see how it sounds. So I'm going to apply my negative. I am at 14 volts, and here we go. Oh, beautiful turn on. Everything is looking and working fantastic. Of course, we need to solder it into a drone and actually give it a shot. I'm only pulling 11 milliamps. That is perfect. I am super excited, guys. This was a successful repair. I hope that you guys saw the wonderful use of a power supply, and if you don't have one, watch my video on one. I hope that you guys learned a little bit about ESCs and Mosfet. I hope that you guys enjoyed this video, and I will see you on the next one.